Greetings, dear listeners. This is Connor from Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist podcast, the podcast which you are listening to right now. Now, I am talking a bit quietly because there's people right outside, but also it's raining, and I don't know, it's a comfy time of day, so I'm not particularly feeling like being overly loud. Plus, I'm actually very sick right now. I've caught quite nasty colds going around, so I will try and keep this brief. But yes, we have been absent for a while, and that is 100% my fault. It's me, like Rebecca and Carl have been there, they've been ready. Rebecca went ahead and she has recorded 3 episodes for me to edit, and this was months ago. So I've been sitting on these 3 episodes and I haven't edited them and uploaded them until now, and I apologize for that, but I just did not have the mental capacity to do it. I needed to get my life in order, and I've done that. A while ago, I was training very hard, 4 nights a week or 5 nights a week. I was doing a lot of boxing, a lot of taekwondo, and I was going to instruct. That was my goal. I was going to have my own place, and I was fighting and boxing as well. I was going to, but I sort of dropped all that, and recently, while I'm still young enough, I've decided to dedicate myself again after this couple of year break I've had from it and dedicate myself full time to training. So I've sort of let everything else fall by the wayside while I get back on that horse. And I'm back on that horse now, which is good. So, yes, and as a result, this podcast is now back. I'm really sorry for making you guys wait months. It's not fair. And, I'm sure some of you are aware I have been doing the Superman podcast, but not this one. And that's simply because the Superman podcast is it's relaxing to do. And don't get me wrong, I love doing the Iron Fist podcast, but with the Iron Fist podcast, we have to cover a big set run, and there's a bit more editing sometimes involved. And with the Superman podcast, it's set up a lot easier. I have an Australian co-host, so it's a lot easier to record. And the big difference is we cover whatever we feel like, and we cover any medium, any era, decade, or whatever, any genre. So it's just a lot more easygoing, and it's also bi-weekly. Um, you should totally listen to it, by the way. But now this podcast is back, the Iron Fist podcast, and as I've said before, this podcast isn't going anywhere. If you don't hear from me, from us for a few months, it doesn't mean we stopped. Just life happens, as they say. And kudos to Rebecca for recording 3 episodes. This is the first of those 3, covering Power Man and Iron Fist 61. And I will share my brief thoughts on that as well after I'm done with this. But yes, so we're back now. The next 3 episodes were recorded months ago, though. So if they feel like they're out of date because Rebecca's talking about upcoming Infinity War, then that's because they are. Ugh, it's my fault too. So yeah, next 3 episodes will be from months ago, but you know, the next episode after this one is Power Man and Iron Fist 62, I believe, and then it's Rebecca and Connor from the Into the Night, not me, the Connor from the Moon Knight podcast, which Ray does, who's my other co-host on the Superman podcast. It's a collective of podcasts, as you might say. Um, they talk about Transformers thing. I believe it's somewhat Iron Fist related. I haven't listened to it yet. I will. I'm sure it'll be good. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode coming up. Apologies again. But, now everything is in order, so I can get back to doing this podcast. Now, just talking about this issue, Power Man and Iron Fist 61, I'll just add my brief thoughts on it. I like Rain, and the artwork's good. I like the artwork throughout the whole book. No one looks weird or anything, and it's solid artwork. It's because it sucks when you read a Power Man and Iron Fist issue and the art's all over the place. You can laugh at Danny's collar and stuff, but you want to read quality sometimes, And I'll point out that Luke's shirt gets torn again. Luke Cage is like Captain Kirk with his T-shirt. Every time he gets in a fight, it tears in like the exact same way. But yeah, And also there's so much dialogue in this issue. It's just dumping information on us in a really uninteresting way. And as Rebecca points out, it was kind of the style of the time. So keep that in mind, I suppose. But yeah, my throat is getting really sore. I rambled on for a while. But here is the first episode since we are back. Ugh. Alright, enjoy.
Been away a while.
You look like a damn fool.
Sorry, the number you have reached is not in service. Please check the number or try your call again. This is a recording.
Hi, and welcome to the Immortal Iron Fist Sons of the Dragon podcast. With just me, Rebecca, today. Carl's sick, so we wish him well, and Connor's busy, so we wish him well too, and hopefully you'll get us all again someday. It's busy times for all of us, and we have hard scheduling problems with the 3 continents, and also different clock changes, different times of year. We just had ours in the UK. So, you've got me taking you through issue 61 of Power Man and Iron Fist. Title on the front is... well, I don't see the title, but it's to do with the Magia. Dead on target, maybe. The Magia has declared open season on Power Man and Iron Fist, and now the heroes for hire are dead on target. Before I start, let's just see if there's been any news. Not really. MCU film and TV is pretty quiet with the run-up to Endgame. There's the usual rumours and speculation about whether the Marvel Netflix characters will be seen again. I saw an article this week that said they're almost certain to come back on Hulu or FX, but still subject to the 2-year delay before them after they've appeared on Netflix. So it's quite good for Iron Fist because that puts him as one of the earlier ones they can use. But I've also seen people speculating he might be able to be in the Shang-Chi movie that's been announced already, because again, the 2 years will be up on that, up on Iron Fist for Marvel, maybe by the time they're filming the Shang-Chi movie. So there's a little bit of hope there, but we'll see. I mean, they have sold all the props now or selling all the props now. So... no more news on him in War of the Realms. Not seen him on any more covers yet from the new solicits. No news of him anywhere else. I'm guessing when we get to Marvel Presents for the 70s, we might get the Heroes for Hire featuring in a story. But we'll see. Lots of things being hinted at for July coming out, but nothing relevant particularly to Iron Fist. So, Power Man and Iron Fist 61 is a Bob Layton cover. He does a lot of stuff for Valiant. He did some famous Iron Man covers as well. You've got Luke and Danny in the centre of a target, and an obviously mafioso guy in the front because he's got a hat and cigar. And in the background, there's Luke pounding on someone and Danny pounding on someone separately. It's a pretty good little cover. It's quite it's white background, which is always interesting. And yeah. Perfectly serviceable. Text cover again. They get a lot of those, I think, Power Man Iron Fist. I haven't read the issue in ages, so we'll be going through it together. I literally did no preparation, so apologies for the sheer unprofessionalism of all this. The comic opens in a cemetery, Rest Haven Cemetery. That's a pretty nice graphic at a full page spread. It's just got a sort of ominous, moon in the sky kind of look. Apparently it has been the host to many scenes like this over the years, where men with shovels are standing in the coffin praying to lose someone's fell remains. But as the comic points out, ordinary burials do not take place in the dead of night. I see what and the mourners don't usually perform the burial themselves. So it looks like these... hoodlums are burying this coffin, and we move to them, and let's have a look. Somebody comes along and says, show some respect for the dead. I loved our departed friend like he's my own brother. I intend to give him a proper send-off. Ooh, and then he drops a rock, And rest in peace, sucker. And you see the name on the coffin is Luke Cage. As the clump of soil thuds on top of the coffin. And that's the way something happens in Jewish funerals. We throw mud on the coffin. Not mud, dirt from the cemetery. On the coffin once it's in the ground, not flowers or anything. So then we split to the cover page. Who's been sleeping in my grave? Very little, very Goldilocks and the Three Bears there. Joe Duffy, writer. Kerry Gamble, penciler. Bruce Patterson, inker. Joe Rosen, letterer. George Roussos, colorist. Roger Stern, editor. Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. I think that's probably the easiest set of credits we've had to pronounce, so thank you, issue 61. And we see a guy in a suit pushing through the door of, I guess, Heroes for Hire or Luke's study, because Luke's on the phone, and this guy pushes in and says, I need you, Luke Cage. And on the phone you get the, Luke, what did you say? So I think we know that's going to be Danny on the other end of the phone. Yes, it is. Guy who's just pushed into the door so hard he falls to the floor. Luke sort of names him, in case you don't remember him or don't see him, as Donovan. Danny's on the phone saying, Luke, what's going on? But there's no reply because Luke's looking after Big Ben Donovan, who he hasn't seen in months, asking who the hell could have brought him to this. Donovan says the Maggia was after him. And then in no time at all, we get some guys with their guns coming and shooting up, semi-automatics. I don't know if they're semi-automatics. The boys can come and whatever. They're like traditional mafia guns, and that's all Danny can hear at the other end is the gunfire. So Danny runs off to go get him. Luke's doing his Power Man thing. Bullets bouncing off him. It's all very action-packed, and then he launches himself to sort of punch out both guys. And they are, in fact, both punched out in one shot. Luke's going, that's pretty easy. They obviously didn't know Donovan has friends. He picks up Donovan and he takes him somewhere. Where is he taking him? Not very far. But he's reminiscing a bit about Donovan and saying he hasn't really had any use for him since he's been hanging out with Jerry and Hogarth. And Ben used to be his lawyer. So, Hero for Hire 14. We actually have a sort of reference to when he last saw Ben. He helped get Claire cleared of a murder charge back when Claire was with Luke. He's put him on the sofa. Okay, so he's doing his little reminiscence as he's carrying him to the sofa. Ben starts to come round, and Luke says, what do the guys want with you? Who sent them? And we get that ominous little speech bubble. I did. And I don't like it when my boys get beat up doing their job, especially a little punk like you. I don't know who'd call Luke a little punk, but okay. And Luke's like, yeah, you're pretty strong. There's not many people who can put me down. Guys managed to get him to the floor. And then the guy says his name is Man Mountain Marco. But Luke manages to grab his foot, throw him. And he's like, I said you were strong. Doesn't mean you got what it takes to beat me. And the desk gets broken because, that's what happens. Meanwhile, a rooftop across in the alley, a shadowy figure watches and waits for the outcome of the fight. He's like, well, at least Power Man isn't working for the Maggia. Otherwise, Marco wouldn't have attacked him. Wish I'd give him a hand, but I can't interfere, not until I can find out how he's involved in all this. Meanwhile, Iron Fist's in a cab, not Moon Knight's for once, and ask him to go a bit faster while tying his mask on, because, Danny, whatever. Cab driver, New York, Times Square, whatever. And then he turns around and all that's left is like Danny's overcoat and the fare and a tip. First, he was a nice looking kid. Okay. So here we go. Man Mountain Marco is coming back at Luke. He's back on his feet and we get a punch up. That lasts a full page. The Marco manages to pull out some electrical cables from the wall and punch Luke with them, which electrocutes him and knocks him out. So does it? He's still standing for a while, but then he does punch him again. He does get him to the floor. But Mountain Marco thinks he's broken his hand doing so. So over at the rooftop, we see a guy in a kind of like Cyclops-like visor, but with a clear electrical flash down his costume, blue and yellow costume. And he's sort of thinking it's not going the way I expected. I didn't think Marco was going to beat Cage. And saying, yeah, I hoped I could stay out of things until I can find out who Cage is working for, but obviously he's going to get involved. He sees Iron Fist running there, and decides to run down to try and head off Iron Fist. For some reason, he says he doesn't want Iron Fist ruining everything. So this guy sort of pops up in front of Iron Fist and says, sorry, Iron Fist, I can't allow you to go in there. Into the cinema that Luke lives in, and Iron Fist don't try and stop me. Well, they're going to both fight over Luke. Iron Fist tries, but the guy's too fast. So it's literally like he's fighting the Flash here, but probably not as fast as the Flash. And this guy's running circles around Danny, giving him like the odd bop in the meantime. And Danny's like, I admit you're fast, but in Kunlun, where I was trained, they said that what matters isn't how often you hit your opponent, but how well. He clocks him with his leg right in the guy's stomach. The guy then sees the car Marco and his guys were driving off, and he's like, I've got to go drop him. Danny's like, you're not going anywhere, like gets him round the head. And so he's knocked the guy down. He goes, no, he's just trying to question him on why are you trying to stop me getting to Luke. And guys on the street are like, why is Danny beating up Thunderbolt? And Danny's like, what? You're Thunderbolt? And Danny's like, I'm sorry. Luke told me about you working with you. It never occurred to me to do that. And Thunderbolt's like, no hard feelings. After all, the world's full of super fast guys wearing blue and gold costumes, right? Pretty much. As long as you're here and I've lost the people I was training, maybe you could tell me what's Luke's connection with Donovan and the Magia. Danny's like, no idea. All I know, I was on the phone. I heard some shooting. Line went dead. And Thunderbolt's like, well, maybe Luke didn't go with them willingly. Danny's like, what? Stands up for his man. Luke could never go with the Magia of his own free will. And Thunderbolt's like, I want to believe that, son. But Donovan led me in the Magia straight to Cage. And then... so Danny's like, what should we do now? And Thunderbolt's like, let's go find your friend. Let's go find the man behind this. The Magia's highest paid attorney, Caesar Cicero. And that's the guy on the front cover with the hat and the cigar. And he's saying, that's good work, Marco. We see Luke chained up in the coffin without the lid. We see Ben Donovan roped to a chair. They seem pretty happy. And Donovan's... not Donovan. We're talking about Marco saying, hey, Luke looks so good in that coffin. Why don't he stay that way permanently? He's like, hey, perhaps, Morgan. While threatening Donovan to cooperate with him. And says, if not, I'll package you up like your partner. And he's like, Luke's not my partner. But Cicero says, you'll tell me what I want to know one way or another. And then we go back to Danny and Thunderbolt, and they're trying to track these guys down. And just across the road, at the office of Assistant District Attorney, Colleen and Misty are there. They've been giving a statement about a recent case. So they've been telling Bill about the district attorney about the things, and you see some Iron Fist at the door. And he's like, Iron Fist kind of goes in. He's like, what are you doing there? I thought you were still on leave. And Misty grabs him and says, we need to talk to you for a minute. But he's like, no, I don't have a minute. And runs off and says, "I'll speak to you later, Misty." And Colin's like, "What did Iron Fist want? What did he see?" Misty's like, "He said he didn't have any time for us." And Colin's a bit pissed off and sort of says, as well, he and Luke had better make time because they're responsible for this problem. Meanwhile, in the police file room, Thunderbolt's saying he knows the DA, he knows all the staff. They don't know him as Thunderbolt, though. They know him as Bill Carver, an assistant DA for some time. And then he gives a little sort of, me and my brother this, and it's from Daredevil and Power Man. And they give you the issue numbers, but that's where you get the story of him and his brother Lonnie, and how he became Thunderbolt. He was struck by lightning, obviously, because that's how you strictly get there. And so he goes through his origin. He discovered that his reflexes were also good, and that's how he got back to being Thunderbolt. He's going after Underworld foes specifically. He said he's learned that his brother's murder was mob ordered. That involves the Magia, Cicero, and now somehow Donovan. And he says he has to find the connection. Danny's a bit like me right now. I don't understand. You talk as you're running out of time. What makes it so urgent for you? And he's, "Look at my face, Iron Fist." And he takes off his mask. It's a black guy with white hair. And he says, "I'm 28 years old. The race sped up more than just my reflexes. At the rate I'm aging, I'll be dead in a matter of days or hours. So we both have to hurry. You to find Power Man before they kill him, and me to nail the team behind my brother's murder before I die." Whew, that's a lot. Let's, before we go on, just say the art in the cut issue's fairly serviceable. No one looks weird at any stages. The colour's good. We haven't got any weird hair colours on Colleen or anything. Danny's got his eyes through his costume for some of it. Yeah, so pretty serviceable art, pretty decent cover. But what a story. It's interesting. Yeah, we start with the Luke funeral. That's would normally be the cliffhanger, so that's flipped down to the front. Then the usual flip back to what happened. But there's an awful lot of exposition here. There's an awful lot of people just popping back up that haven't been seen before now. And then we get this massive data dump about Thunderbolt at the end. I mean, it's interesting. We've always wanted one of these sort of speed people to have issues with aging as well. So it's good to see them go there. And obviously this is the cliffhanger. The cliffhanger next issue is called "It's Your Funeral." And you get the whole ominous, is Luke Cage destined for an early grave? Who ordered Lonnie Carver's death? What part does Big Ben Donovan play in all this? Find out next issue. So it's not a great setup. It's a very wordy, mealy setup that probably could have been told different and almost certainly would have been now. So it may be that it's relying a lot on how we were okay in the 70s with getting these huge data dumps. Because, it might be ages before we got to the next thing, and when you were getting these long form stories. So we're obviously starting a new character arc here. We don't know what's happening with Misty and Colleen and why they think that Luke and Danny are to blame for the situation they're in. And that's the issue. And I'm sorry it was so short, and I'm sorry it's just me. And I'm sure Connor will now let you know how you can contact the podcast. But I'll say that you can always come to our website, Facebook page, which is just look up Immortal Iron Fist Podcast, Sons of the Dragon. It's usually ticking around, lots of sort of nice sort of daily, a few times a week content about Iron Fist. Keep you going before we do hear any more about that. And I hope next time you'll get at least two of us on, because it's always a bit more fun when we can talk about it and the guys can tell me all the things I should have prepared for about this issue. Okay, but we wanted to get you something out, so apologies for that, and hope you've enjoyed it, and we will speak again soon. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Iron Fist and all other characters in these comics are properties of Marvel and Disney. Any music or images we use belong to their respective copyright holders. We do this for fun, so please don't sue us. You can contact us at sonsofthedragonpodcast@gmail.com. Just send us mail, comments, thoughts, anything you want, really. It doesn't even have to be related to Iron Fist. If you don't want it read on the air though, make sure you mention that. You can also find us on Facebook, the Immortal Iron Fist Podcast, Sons of the Dragon. Our Twitter, @Iron Fist Podcast. Our SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Sons of the Dragon, hyphens where the spaces are. Our YouTube, Connor Carl. Just search Iron Fist Podcast and you'll find us real quick. We are also on iTunes. If you find us there, give us a review and rate us. If it's less than 5 stars, please say why so we can improve the show. And we're on Podcast Garden in the literature section, and last but not least, head over to our WordPress, Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist Podcast.wordpress.com. That's where I put all the show notes. I'd like to thank Thomas Tissot for composing the Iron Fist theme song we use at the start of our Iron Fist episodes on the podcast. I'd also like to thank Peter John Sikorsky for composing the Power Man and Iron Fist theme we use at the start of our Power Man and Iron Fist episodes. And finally, thanks to you guys for listening.